other way. Robert missed. Back to the wall and gone. Auburn's going to win the football game. You can feel the madness.
Alrighty. Episode 4. I think it is episode 4. Bob, can you verify it?
Yes. It is episode 4. Frog Dissection 101.
Bruh.
Yeah, the frogs got dissected hard. Oh my god.
I feel like if you're a biology student right now, I think you're jealous at how hard those frogs got dissected. My God.
I'm not a biology major because I'm upset.
Literally.
I mean, I know TCU didn't do so well in the championship there, but they did everything right this season. They deserve to be there, and they just had a bad day, and Georgia was ready for them.
I don't even think it was just a bad day. I just think it was Georgia's first of all, I'm not going to buy into the shit of anyone saying oh, you guys thought we were going to be 6-6 or 5-7. No one thought that. Everyone thought you were going to be back here or at least be a 10-win team at worst. And here we are talking about the largest championship blowout in the history since the FBS has started championship games. We're talking about the 4th largest FBS versus FBS blowout this season. In the championship game.
I mean, I had doubts about TCU because of all of their close games and stuff like that, but when you come through and you have multiple top 25 wins and you have no losses going into your championship game, I mean, you have done everything in your power to what you can do to make the playoffs. And yeah, it didn't go well in the playoffs. I honestly think, obviously Michigan or Ohio State, had Ohio State been ranked above TCU, would have done better, obviously, as we know. But TCU did everything right this season, and it just didn't work out for them.
I have nothing to add there because, well, you already said what I was going to say. TCU just, kept on having close wins. So, I doubted that, they would even do anything in the championship. But, damn it, I wanted a fucking hypnotoads thing going here, but, oh well.
I wanted TCU to win, although I expected Georgia to win, but I didn't expect it in this fashion.
Absolutely, man. God fucking damn.
I think everyone was hoping for... every year we want a good game because this is the last game we have in college football for 7 months and 2 weeks. I think it's the 25th of August is the first football game. 25th or 26th.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that. Week 0. God love it. Anyway, we always want... With anything in life, we want the end to be the best. We don't want a Game of Thrones type of situation here. And championship games that turn into routes always leave a bitter taste. The one that jumps in my mind immediately is the 2012 BCS National Championship game. It was, the 2012 season, Alabama versus Notre Dame. That game was over by the first quarter. It should have been Alabama-Ohio State, but because Ohio State was dealing with the fallout from the Terrell Pryor and Jim Tressel era, they were ineligible that year in Urban Meyer's first year. So that's how Notre Dame got in. And it was just insane to see Alabama just take the number 2 team in the country and just whiplash them within a quarter. The one thing I remember for that game was Alabama's quarterback's amazingly hot girlfriend, Catherine Webb, they're married today with 3 amazing kids. That's the only thing I remember from that game.
I know you're talking.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh no, you go ahead. I'll add on after you're done.
So when we look at this one, 10 years later, this was a game that TCU went 3-and-out first drive, not even a minute with the ball. Okay. Bad starts happen. Not the end of the world. Georgia scores. Georgia scores again. And TCU then responded the only time in the game where they actually did anything, and it was only 10-7 late in the first. And then Georgia was like, we have to put this out of reach now, or else this is going to become an issue. And TCU got very aggressive trying to keep this game close. And it failed every time. I mean, it was 31-7 already. TCU went for it deep in their own territory to try and get something, to make it a drive to even get points, and make it 31-10 at worst. And they turned the ball over deep in their own territory, and Georgia didn't have an issue making it 38-7 and basically ending the game and allowing the writers across all of the professional sports networks to start their top 25s for next season a little earlier. Because why would you watch a game where it's 38-7 at halftime? I mean, we've seen weirder results. TCU came back from 35 down against Oregon in a bowl game in Mark Helfrich's second year, 2015. But it just felt like this felt inevitable to me that Georgia was going to win the title once the top 4 got announced.
I definitely thought Georgia was going to win this. I was just hoping, TCU was going to at least keep it close. I mean, I even think, Michigan, even though Michigan lost TCU, had Michigan not made the insane amount of mistakes they had made during that game against TCU and won that game and moved on, Michigan would not have lost as close or as much as TCU did in that game.
I mean, I'll tell you right now, though. I mean, Georgia made one mistake that entire game, and it was a missed extra point. That's it. That's the only thing that went wrong for the Bulldogs on Monday night. Michigan, really, it felt as if this was just it for that. Like, with how many mistakes they made against the TCU, like, if they got by TCU, how do you get away with making even one mistake against Georgia? You don't.
I mean, that's kind of how I'm saying, like, and Michigan not made those mistakes against TCU and doesn't make those mistakes against Georgia, I think it would have been a lot closer in that. I still think the score would have probably been, like 42 Georgia, 24 Michigan, something like that. And it wouldn't have been super close or whatever, but it wouldn't have been a blowout like TCU and Georgia was.
Yeah, and I mean, that's another thing too. I mean, we've talked about elite Alabama teams. Well, not on here, but I've always talked about elite Alabama teams in my life. The Alabama team of 2020 was one of the greatest teams in history of football because they don't make mistakes. Ohio State made just enough mistakes late to where, Georgia wasn't clicking on all cylinders, but Ohio State made enough mistakes to where Georgia's like, we're just going to take the lead. You have to respond, and Ohio State failed to respond.
It just makes me.
So I really.
Huh?
Go ahead. Sorry.
It just makes me wonder, like, what could have been if, like, Ohio State hadn't fucked it up. Like, literally, we wouldn't even be talking about TCU fucking getting murdered on live television. Like, literally, it's so weird in a way. You know what I mean?
I think if Ohio State makes that field goal, I think it would have been a fantastic game again.
Yeah, no, because Ohio State, I definitely think wouldn't have been as dominating over TCU as Georgia was. Although I'm definitely glad that Ohio State lost that game because even though I'm a Michigan State fan, not a Michigan fan, still, fuck Ohio State, fuck them. I don't want to see them have any success.
Wild. I mean, like, literally, I probably, like, I agree with that, but at the same time, I probably would have preferred Ohio State over Georgia, but that's just me, though. Like, I don't know what it is, but it's just, I don't know. I think it would have been, like, a much more entertaining game with Ohio State in it rather than Georgia. Because, like, you know, there's, like, all those Georgia dick riders and whatever, so.
Which, I mean, I know Georgia's had a lot of, like, before the last year, Georgia's always been kind of, like, made fun of for their issues and stuff that they've had. So it's kind of good to see, you know, a team that's had, like, multiple years of struggles finally come into themselves. But overall, I'm kind of over the whole bandwagoning stuff that's been going on with the team. But I don't know. We'll see how it goes in the future. I think the SEC is actually going to be wide open next year with both Stetson Bennett. I think this was Stetson Bennett's last year, right?
Yeah, he got a send off in the fourth quarter. Yeah, a little story. The Georgia players are on offense. They were like, Stetson, what the hell are we doing? We don't have a play yet. It's like, hold on. Kirby calls a timeout, and then they're all like, oh, okay. They're giving him his send off. I mean, so that was it was a very nice way to send him off. You know, you can debate all you want if he has an NFL career or not, or where he's going to end up, but his time in Georgia has been nothing but short of amazing.
I think he could definitely make a career as like a backup in the NFL. I don't think he's going to be a starter. But I'm definitely interested to see how the SEC goes next year because Bryce Young, he's going to the NFL. I don't trust Alabama's quarterback situation for next year. Stetson Bennett, he's done. So Hendon Hooker, he's going to the NFL. I am very interested to see how the SEC is going to go next year. Definitely.
It's all going to be about Spencer Rattler, baby. Go Cox!
Oh, no. No.
Go Cox!
Yeah, he did announce, I think it was yesterday or today, that he is coming back for 2023 with South Carolina. So, best quarterback in the SEC East may reside in Columbia, South Carolina.
Go Cox!
Next year is the year that Texas and Oklahoma are going to the SEC, right?
2024 at earliest. Right now, it's still 2025.
Okay, so... All right.
Yeah, so no changes within the SEC yet. There's a lot of people who think it will be 2024, but as of right now, it's still 2025.
Okay. Also, yeah, Bob, I was going to talk about earlier, you brought up week 0 about stuff, and I don't really see any games I pulled up right now that are going to be interesting because we have FIU at Louisiana Tech, Hawaii at Vanderbilt, Idaho State at San Diego State.
Oh, stop. You said Hawaii and Vanderbilt. That's the game of the week. That's where game they have to go.
But Navy versus Notre Dame is going to be in Dublin. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah, Navy with their new head coach. I don't know if Navy's announced their new head coach yet.
And then we have San Jose State at USC, which I think USC should win that easily. Then we have if college had a tank bowl, this would be it, and it's UMass at New Mexico State.
Hey, now don't go hate on New Mexico State. They went 7-6 this year.
Okay, they beat Bowling Green in their bowl, which that's a MAC team, and the MAC is by far the worst Division I conference, in my opinion. Even though I'm a Central Michigan fan, I know that
It's not the worst now. It's definitely Conference USA post realignment.
True, but that's not going to take effect until next year, for the most part.
Yeah. I mean, well, next year's the big year because they've already lost 3 of their better teams, and now another 6 are out the door, and their replacements are all FCS programs and New Mexico State and Liberty.
Which Liberty, I thought was going to be good, but then all of us that now Hugh Freeze is. Where's Hugh Freeze going again? SEC.
He's back in the SEC with Auburn.
With Auburn, yes. And Liberty just fucking gave up on the season. They got blown out by New Mexico State. So I think Liberty's time of relevance is done. They're over.
I don't, because I like who they hired as their head coach, Jeremy Chadwell, the Coastal Carolina coach. And I know Coastal Carolina had a very rough end of the year, but, I mean, he's done a tremendous job with Chanticleers, and I think Liberty should. I don't think Liberty is going to be, a perennially ranked team or a perennial group of 5 team fighting for the playoff position for those 5 conferences, but I don't think Liberty is going to go anywhere.
I can't remember if Grayson McCall is going to NFL this season.
No, he originally went into the transfer portal, and then he pulled out. So he's coming back for 1 more year in Coastal Carolina.
Okay. Who's going to be the coach of Coastal Carolina again this year? I don't know.
Tim Beck, he was the North Carolina State offensive coordinator. It's basically been decided since 2020 that Tim Beck was going to be the guy to replace Chadwell whenever the time came. Now.
Gotcha. Okay, I couldn't remember exactly where that was going to go.
And I think we're good to move on here from the championship game, but I do want to say one thing. I don't care that TCU lost by 58. This is still one hell of a season. Let's not forget that.
Oh, absolutely. They did a fantastic job this season. And they just had a bad day.
Oh, you got anything you want to add, or?
Not really. I don't know what else to say, really. Like, it was like a slaughter. Like, fucking... I really don't know. I'm like barely...
So the next thing we'll talk about here is the Battle for the Dakota Marker Part 2, the FCS Championship game, also with a blowout.
Not in the way you expected, though.
No, I mean, if when you hear North Dakota State and FCS Championship in the same sense, you think it's going to be a Bison blowout. No, the Jackrabbits blew everyone out this time.
Good for them.
I mean, that game, it was 7-7 at one point, and then at halftime it ended up being 28-7, and North Dakota State tried to reel them back in, and it just didn't happen, and the Jackrabbits get their first FCS championship in program history.
North Dakota State, what happened?
You know, it's insane to me that was their 10th appearance in 12 years, and that was their first championship game lost. And if you think they're going anywhere, if I was a gambling man, I wouldn't be surprised if it was the same championship game again next year. Would not surprise me in the slightest bit.
You know, I definitely think that the North Dakota State and South Dakota State teams have been the class of the FCS world for the past few years.
And that vacuum only grew with James Madison leaving the FCS.
That is very true. Although I know, is it Incarnate Word also had a really good offense this year.
Incarnate Word is kind of like the FCS version of the Mike Leach style of school, where they just put up points in insane amounts.
Mm-hmm.
They did it last year, and this year they got even better and fully deserved. Their quarterback won the Walter Payton Award, which goes to the FCS's top player of the year. Basically, the FCS version of the Heisman.
Okay.
And it went to their quarterback, and his stat line was very good this year. It was very good to see a school from. I can't remember what conference. I think they were in the ASUN WAC conference or the Southland, one of those two, and they were just so fun to watch. Because when they're playing, there's going to be points, and they almost went into Fargo in the Fargo Dome and won that game in the semis.
Well, I know they beat in the regular season. They beat Nevada, which is which FBS team.
I mean, to be fair to them, though, Nevada kind of sucks.
True. Which Nevada usually had a somewhat decent team, but this year it seems like they just had nothing.
Well, they changed coaches. They started 2-0, and then they lost 10 in a row.
Okay.
But Incarnate Word's in the Southland. Them in Southeast Louisiana always produce thrilling games because they both run just super high octane offenses, and they're just so amazing to watch.
Which I definitely I need to watch more FCS football. I've not been able to watch much of it. But I did see some highlights from the championship game, at least.
Yeah. Like
So,
I watch enough FCS to like where like I can name some of the teams or whatever. Hell, even like what the school I was originally gonna go to is an FCS school, so I know a little bit about it. So you know.
Okay.
You were gonna say
Chicago State University wants to add a football team.
I don't think that's going to go over well.
I'm not talking about Division II, Division III football. I'm talking Division I.
What? No. No.
Oh, no. They haven't said if it was going to be FBS or FCS, but they're looking into it. Okay.
No.
Try the conference first, then consider that.
Congratulations, Chicago State. You're going into the MAC. Let's go.
I don't think the MAC would even want them. I mean, the MAC used to have UMass, and that didn't work out too well.
Well, also UMass is rather far away from the rest of the MAC team. Chicago State wouldn't be as far away.
No, they'd be right in the footprint, because remember, they have Northern Illinois in the conference, which they're in DeKalb.
Very true.
Oh God, I'm reading through news articles and sports and that's just one of them, and it's like, oh my God, okay, that's in left field. So the next thing, we're gonna wrap up our talk about 2022, at least for now. Biggest surprise in each Power 5 conference.
Biggest surprise. Okay.
You can only pick one team. There are no ties. So we're going to start with the ACC.
ACC, honestly, I would have to go with Duke.
Honestly, I have no idea who I would pick, honestly, but
So, I mean, Duke has been known mostly for being a basketball school, and hold on, I'm pulling up the exact record and stuff that they have
They
right
went 9-4.
9-4, okay. And they finished third in the Coastal,
Tied for second with Pitt.
tied for second with Pitt. Sorry, am I allowed? And they ended up with a bowl game win over UCF. And I mean, they played North Carolina close and lost by 3. They lost to Pitt by 2. Um, it was just a great year for Duke, which is a team that is not known for their football team.
Yeah, I'm going to say Duke as well. I mean, so neat fact here, Duke was the first team that received other votes in the AP poll. They finished 26th in the AP poll, just behind Texas. Duke first-year coach Mike Elko, former coordinator at Texas A&M. How about the fact that the previous coordinator at Texas A&M had more success at Duke than Texas A&M had?
That's insane, right there.
I mean, Duke played very hard this year. I mean, they played very hard under David Cutcliffe, the previous head coach. I mean, they had great years with him. I mean, remember they played Texas A&M in what was then just the Chick-fil-A Bowl, now the Peach Bowl, and they had several good years. They just fell off, and then Mike Elko comes in year one, 9-4. It's a damn shame the Coastal no longer exists, because I could say, if you were to tell me Duke's gonna be a contender, I wouldn't have laughed.
I mean, there still is a chance. I do think the ACC is probably wide open right now, because I feel like Clemson is still dealing with issues at quarterback. Florida State has seemingly just come back from the dead. And Pitt is kind of struggling after the Kenny Pickett era.
I mean, Pitt did. I mean, I know what it says about Pitt though. They did finish strong. They did go 9-4 and then ranked their 22nd final ranking. So, shout out to Duke. And I guess if I had to do an honorable mention one, I know I said I wasn't going to do two, but I feel like Georgia Tech deserves a shout out because they looked like shit. They fired their head coach, and they got one win away from being bowl eligible. It's a damn shame that their final game was against Georgia and they had no shot.
That is true.
I think I know what to pick for the biggest surprise here. It's the fact that like Florida State felt the cheesiest.
That was a damn good game. I love that. If you're talking about the last episode, that was one of my favorite games.
Yeah, I mean, Florida State, they finished the season ranked ahead of Clemson.
Yes, definitely.
They finished 11th. Clemson was 13th.
I definitely think that Florida State overall probably was the better team, even though they had some issues here and there. But I like the future of Florida State more than
I think
Clemson.
I think I don't want to go jumping ship here and thinking that Florida State's gonna instantly be like an 11-1 playoff contender next year. I'm gonna hold off on that. Mm-hmm. But I think Mike Norvell has done a good job. But this also means I think the goal this year was 8 wins, 8 or 9 wins. I think next year the floor is 8 or 9 wins. I think I could even argue 9. I think anything under that may leave a real sour taste in Tallahassee. But yeah, I think Florida State definitely is a good pick to say they were the biggest surprise. I don't think anyone had them winning 10 games. I know I didn't when the season started.
Yeah.
No, I definitely didn't, but I am all for it. Like, I'm definitely for Florida State being a powerhouse again.
My thing is that like the fact that not only did they win the Cheez-It Bowl or like whatever game that was that they played in, uh,
Yes.
they have to face LSU, who won the Citrus Bowl, I think. So and like that is
Yep.
also sponsored by Cheez-Its. So and they're gonna be facing off each other as the kickoff game next season. So
In Orlando.
yeah, in Orlando. So it's literally a battle of who is the cheesiest. That's literally all that is. Like, holy
I
shit.
didn't think that game's not sponsored by Cheez-Its.
Yeah,
Damn shame.
I know. Missed opportunity, dude. It's sponsored by Camping World for some reason. Like, literally, you had one chance, and you fucking missed it. Like, goddamn.
Come on, Marcus Lemonis, let's go. Let's make this the cheesiest game.
I'm feeling the cheesiest coach.
Alright. Biggest surprise in the Big 12. I think this one's kind of obvious.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely TCU. Definitely.
They were projected to finish 7th in the preseason. They got 13-2. They run away with it. Do we have anyone that thinks there was another team besides TCU?
I mean, Kansas State beat TCU in the Big 12 championship when like everyone thought TCU was gonna win that.
If I had to do honorable mentions, it's Texas Tech and Kansas State.
Definitely.
I think I had like Texas Tech going 6-6. They go 8-5. I had Kansas State probably an 8-win team. They go 10-4. If I had to pick one of those two to be the honorable mention, no, it probably would actually be Texas Tech. The job that Chris Kleiman, because I mean, remember Texas Tech first year head coach under Joey McGuire. Team looks out of sorts after the Matt Wells era fizzles out horrendously, and there's some early buzz in 2023 that Texas Tech could be a top 25 team for the first time since the Mike Leach era. And that includes an era where they had Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what Texas Tech does in the future years and stuff of their program. I think at the end of the year, I had Texas Tech ranked like just shortly outside the top 25, in my opinion. I mean, they had some good games, but they also had some games where they probably should have won, but they didn't. But I think they'll get there eventually.
Exciting time to be a Red Raider in Lubbock, Texas.
Definitely.
All right, this is probably going to be the hardest one. Biggest surprise, in a good way, in the Big Ten.
Oh, goodness.
Purdue.
Big Ten is rough because, I mean, everything kind of went how you expected it to, except for the fact that the Big Ten West was just absolute shit this year.
Yeah. So here's how it went down record-wise: 13-1 Michigan, 11-2 Ohio State and Penn State. Minnesota had 9 wins. Then 4 teams had 8 wins, and then Wisconsin had 7.
I mean, if we were gonna go with bad, I mean, I'm a Michigan State fan this year.
We're saving bad. We're saving bad for later. We're gonna cycle back through here.
For good, I would probably say Purdue, just because I feel like Purdue's wasn't expected to get anywhere near the championship game, and they still managed to get there and do somewhat decent this season. I don't.
I would say Purdue, but after the shellacking that LSU handed them, my answer is Maryland at 8-5.
Maryland also did pretty well this season. Yeah.
Shout out to Mike Loxley for wearing that big hat when he got dumped with mayo. That man is a genius.
100%, definitely.
Cole, who's your pick?
Purdue.
Purdue?
Yeah.
Like I said, if it wasn't for Purdue, I think getting shellacked by 56 against LSU, I'd probably pick I probably do pick Purdue, but I can't justify it after that. I'm sorry, I can't.
Yeah.
All right. Biggest surprise in the Pac-12 conference. This one's tough for the complete opposite reason. There's several good choices here.
I am going to go with Oregon State.
Beavers.
Yeah, same
Like,
here.
I mean, that team has been shit for so long, and I'm just glad to see the fact they have something going for them at the moment.
I'm going to go with the Huskies of Washington. Oregon State has been trending upward for quite a while now, and Jonathan Smith is a tremendous coach at his alma mater, and I hope, and again, there's top 25 buzz around Oregon State next year. They could be a potential New Year's Six participant. But for Washington, last year was such a debacle under Jimmy Lake. The team collapsed and fell to 4-8, and looked downright awful doing it. They fire Jimmy Lake. They bring in Kevin DeBoer and Michael Penix Jr. from Indiana, and they just reel off 11 wins like it was nothing. They cruised to a comfortable win against Texas in the Alamo Bowl. They were kind of a bad tiebreaker from being in the Pac-12 championship game. It was just a downright great season, and there is top 10 buzz for Washington next season. They finished this season as the highest ranked Pac-12 team at 8. Ahead of Utah, ahead of USC.
I mean, I definitely think Washington has a lot going for them at the moment. But before Penix transferred to Washington, I kind of figured he was at least a decent quarterback. I could definitely see him having at least, some sort of success in the NFL if he decides to declare for the draft. So I'm not overly surprised at it. But I definitely, like, if I didn't go with Oregon State, I'd probably go with Washington.
Cole, who are you going with, buddy?
Oh, I'm going. I agree with Zach. I'm going for Oregon State.
The Beavers.
Yeah.
God love them in
Love
Dallas,
for-
Oregon.
Take that out of context.
All right. We're just going to ignore what Zach said and go to the SEC's biggest surprise. Good surprise.
Oh, that one's easy. That one's easy. The Cox, baby. The Cox. Let's go.
I am going to take the Volunteers.
Goodness. What am I going to go with here? Those are both teams I were thinking of. Goodness.
Come on, Zach. You know you want to say it.
I'm too tipsy for this. Oh goodness.
Come on. You know you want the Cox.
I think there's like 4 great choices you could go with here.
You know what? Since you guys already said the top 2 that I was going to go with, I'm going to go with my third choice, Vanderbilt.
Okay, there's 5 good choices. I forgot about Vanderbilt.
Because Vanderbilt has been so garbage for so long.
The last time Vanderbilt was good was with James Franklin in 2014. I mean, with South Carolina, I think a lot. I had them taking a step back because their schedule was a lot tougher this year than it was last year. I thought they were going to be 6-6 or 5-7, and they were a really good bowl game away from being 9-4. And they still finished the season ranked. They finished 23rd. Tennessee, I thought was going to maybe be a 9-win team, and if it wasn't for the shellacking they took at the hands of South Carolina, they're a playoff team. So, and I want to give two honorable mention shout-outs to Mississippi State and LSU, because they both, I think, exceeded expectations by at least 3 games. Maybe not Mississippi State, but LSU did. I think Mississippi State just kind of became an honorable mention because of what happened with Mike Leach. But, yeah, I think the SEC definitely had the biggest surprise teams by far. It was a very even, very deep conference with a lot of surprises. And we're going to look through this all together. The biggest surprise in the group of 5 conferences.
I'm going to go with Troy.
UTSA.
Tulane, baby. They finished the season ranked 9th. They won 2 games last year.
Here's the thing. I am actually not surprised that Tulane has done this. I am not surprised.
Whoa. They went 2-10 last year, and their coach was going to get fired if they didn't get to a bowl game. You're going to sit here and tell me that a 10-win turnaround does not surprise you.
Okay, to be fair, I might be putting too much credit in the fact that they played Oklahoma close last season. I saw that game, and I'm like, okay, this team is missing some pieces here and there, but I think they are pretty close to being there.
Like, I don't think it's absurd I mean, the group of 5 conferences have a lot of swings. Like, very few teams are very consistently good or consistently bad. But, I mean, so if you would have told me, Tulane's going to go 7-5, I don't think I'd bat an eye. I'd be like, okay, that makes sense, and then probably next year they get better. No team in college football history has improved by 10 wins in a single season. It's never happened before until 2022 with Tulane.
I mean, I wasn't sure if it was going to be like a 10-win season, but I knew for sure they were at least going to be contending for bowl games and potentially an ACC championship game.
Yeah, and my honorable mention is Troy, because again, Troy, first-year coach under John Summerall. But I mean, it has to be Tulane, man. Like, if they don't lose to Kansas State, they're probably a playoff team. Well, I mean, not they beat Kansas State. If they don't lose those 2 games like they did, like to UCF, they're a playoff team, and that's insane to think about. Or they're at least deserving considerable consideration.
Definitely.
Yeah.
So we talked about the good. Now let's talk about the bad. The biggest disappointment in the ACC. I feel like there's an obvious one here.
Pittsburgh, in my opinion.
Wow, okay.
I mean, they had a lot going for them, and even though, Kenny Pickett was drafted in the NFL, I still feel like they had they could have done better this season.
I mean, if you're gonna say Pitt, I think I watched a couple games of Pitt. Their offensive line was their biggest issue. I think if they had a good offensive line, I do think they probably win the Coastal Winner consideration of a New Year's Six bowl again. But I think my obvious answer is Miami.
Yeah.
They fired Manny Diaz for going 7-6 or 7-5, and Mario Cristobal comes in, and you at least expect status quo. 7-5. Maybe you could satisfy with a 6-6. But 5-7? It wasn't as if Miami was devoid of talent in the ACC, and you go 5-7. Really? Now, they have a very good recruiting class coming in. Very damn good recruiting class coming in. But it doesn't. If this happens again, or they only improve by a game or two, I think they have to go 8-4 next year. But if they're 6-6 or 7-5, or God help them if they're 5-7 again, all the wind is going to be out of that program's sails again. I wasn't the biggest fan of the Mario Cristobal hire, and I think Miami's got issues. They have to prove it on the field, otherwise this could turn into a Texas A&M Florida edition. Oh, who are you going with?
Probably Virginia or something. I don't know.
Such a tragic ending to that season, man. That hurts. But yeah, I could see Virginia too, because they went from being a bowl contending team under Bronco Mendenhall to they go to Tony Elliott, and then they go 3-7 before that tragedy. Definitely disappointing. Same with Virginia Tech, honestly. Biggest disappointment in the Big 12. I feel like this one also kind of has an obvious one.
Oklahoma.
Hold on, I gotta think for a second here.
Definitely Oklahoma.
I say Kansas.
I'm gonna go with Oklahoma State.
Well, Oklahoma State had a good start to the season, but they got fucked by injuries.
Yeah, they did, but it's this was a team that went from being a top 10 team to 7-6. I think you could. It just, for me, it's the Cowboys just, they fell off, man, and I truly thought Oklahoma State was going to be a playoff dark horse. I didn't think Oklahoma was going to be, but man, Oklahoma State, that ending was very bitter.
Honestly, I think injuries just caught up to them, and they just couldn't keep up with it. I mean, Oklahoma with the Brett Venables hire, I thought, they would at least, be contending for a Big 12 championship. Not necessarily win it, but at least contending. But they were nowhere near it this season.
Yeah, I didn't have them contending. I thought, because you look at Brett Venables, he's a defensive guy, and Lincoln Riley had no defense, so it was going to take time for them to get defense. And the good news for Oklahoma is Dylan Gabriel's coming back next year for them. So I think Oklahoma can be a top 25 team again next season.
How old's Dylan Gabriel now? Jesus Christ.
I think next year's his final year, because because remember, he had that nasty leg injury, so I think he got an extra year off of that as well. So I think he is able to do. I think he's doing the full 6 years.
Okay, gotcha.
Cole, who are you going with?
I'd say Kansas.
A disappointment?
I mean, I don't know. It's hard to pick from the Big 12, honestly, but
I'm surprised you're not going with Baylor or one of the Oklahoma schools or Iowa State or West Virginia, honestly.
I mean, to be fair, I wasn't really expecting much of Iowa State or West Virginia this year, but...
Well, I mean, for Iowa State, I don't know if you could call them a true disappointment, because here are their losses in total points margin. 7-3, 1-3, 14-6, 4. The only really bad game they had was TCU, where they lost by 38. No, 48. Sorry, 48 points.
Oof.
That's the only bad one they had.
Hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, there's definitely a couple good options. I can understand if Kansas left a sour note in your mouth because they went from 5-0 to 6-7.
Mm.
But I mean, they were stay competitive for the most bit. So, Big Ten's biggest disappointment.
Hmm.
I will start with, and I don't know what I was thinking here, but I'm going with the Corn Huskers of Lincoln, Nebraska.
Okay.
What's
I mean, I know Nebraska had some hopes for this season, but they still had Scott Frost, so like I didn't expect them to do much this season.
Yeah, but here's the thing, too, though. Even after Scott Frost, the team didn't improve. They didn't get that interim coach bounce that happens in basically every sport. They played just as poorly.
Hmm. Unfortunately, if we're gonna talk about Big Ten teams that disappoint me, I have to go with my homeboys, Michigan State.
Definitely. They should have been 8-4 at worst, and they ended up 5-7, and they were damn lucky to get the 5-7.
Yeah, no, like we were definitely like it was gonna be a down year without Kenneth Walker and stuff like that, but I mean we should
Yeah.
have at least been bowl eligible, at least. And
Yeah, how does it feel to have paid your coach $10 million a year to go 5-7?
it doesn't feel good, I'll tell you that. That's why Bob. This is why I drink. One of the many reasons why I drink.
Oh, what says you?
Honestly, um, hmm. This is also a tough one. Um, yeah, I agree with Zach. Michigan State.
Yeah.
However,
I think
if I wasn't
it's
going to
a
go with a team that was my own, I would go with Northwestern because holy fuck, how do you go 1-11?
they went 0-11 in the United States.
Like, god damn, how bad do you have to be to win one game on the season?
That's Colorado.
I think that's going to come up soon.
Yeah, I mean, Michigan State could easily find themselves in a Texas A&M situation where your team is sucking, and if you have prolonged suckage, you can't fire your coach because you can't afford to fire him because he's going to cost you $80 million to do it.
Mm.
So,
I mean, I hope it was just a bad year. I hope next year, we're at least full eligible. Hopefully beat Michigan, and I'll call that a successful season. That's all I'm hoping for next season. That's it.
all right, biggest disappointment in the Pac-12.
Okay, since we're on to this one, I'm gonna say it immediately. Arizona State. Dude, it was fucking painful. I can't fucking believe, like, everything. The only good thing that came out of it was because of fucking Herm Edwards leaving. But that was only because of us being fucking shat on by Eastern Michigan, dude. Like, holy fuck.
I was expecting Arizona State to suck this year. I can't call them a disappointment. I was expecting them to be trash. My biggest disappointment is Stanford. I loved the David Shaw era started off so well, and he maintained it for a while, and then it just slowly, painfully fell off. And I had hope that he could at least get them 5-7 or 6-6 this year, and it just this was not meant to be. That's what says you.
My biggest disappointment. I mean, Colorado's kind of like easy pickings and stuff like that. Although, in my opinion, I wasn't really expecting Colorado to do much this season. It's a toss-up between Colorado and Washington State, in my opinion.
Washington State had the potential to be really good, and they just never showed it.
Yeah, no, they have a close loss to Utah, semi-close loss to Oregon State, close loss to Oregon. Wasn't really close to Washington at the end there. And, I mean, got blown the fuck out by Fresno State in the bowl games. Like, what? What? How?
And finally, I feel like this is an obvious one, but the biggest disappointment in the SEC, it's got to be Texas A&M. You bring in the number one recruiting class. You're preseason ranked 6. You're not devoid of talent, and you go 5-7. You finish last in the West. You lost to Auburn. It's a no-brainer for me. It's the Aggies. Case closed. Go home.
I mean, if we're gonna go over like overall worst teams, like I definitely agree with you that.
Well, even relative to expectation, what was the expectation of Texas A&M? At worst, they say 10-2. At worst.
I mean, I definitely think, probably should have at least been bowl eligible and at least, competing for the SEC championship. But, I mean, when you have, a good recruiting class like that, it's still freshmen. They're still, just getting into college football. And I'm not expecting them to have immediate success.
But he's been recruiting at a high level the entire time. He's been bringing in top 10 classes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look at you lose to Appalachian State. There's only 2 games this year where Texas A&M put up 30 points. Sam Houston, an FCS school, and LSU somehow, some way. But they lose at Mississippi State. That's inexcusable. No offense to the Bulldogs.
Mm-hmm.
They played well against Alabama. I will give them that, but a loss is a loss. Take your L and leave. Mm-hmm. You got embarrassed by South Carolina. You had to come back just to make that game look respectable. You lose to Ole Miss at home. Florida, a 500 Florida team, dismantled you. And then you lose to Auburn.
Yeah.
And guess what? You did play well against UMass. You only beat them by 17.
Bob, I'm going to have to say I do agree with you. I do think Texas A&M was the biggest disappointment in SEC. But I do want to take a look at another team that I think was a big disappointment in SEC, and that's Kentucky. Like,
yeah.
What the fuck was Kentucky doing this season? Because Will Levis is supposed to be this, first round pick. And we have a 44-6 loss to Tennessee, losing to Vanderbilt. What the fuck? What are they doing? Like, seriously. I mean, I understand for the most part, like a loss to Georgia, 16-6. They did decent. I mean, they lost by a field goal to Ole Miss, which Ole Miss was a decent team this season. but then they lost to Iowa in the bowl season 21-0, a team that has no offense. Disappointing for Kentucky. Very disappointing.
Yeah, I think Kentucky deserves that because I thought they could be. I thought they had all the potential to be 10-2, and nope.
No.
Cole, what says you?
For we're talking like fuck. Well, I lost my train of thought. What conference again?
The biggest disappointment in the SEC.
Oh, in the SEC. Ooh. Let me see here. Like, I think I know which one. But I gotta see real quick. Let's see here. SEC. I'm gonna say. I guess Texas A&M. I don't know. Like yeah, they showed up in conference play, but like it. Well, wait a minute. Did they? Hold on. I think I'm looking at.
They finished last in the SEC West.
Oh.
3-5.
Yeah, definitely. Texas A&M. Then, like, bro, like, what happened? For some reason, I was looking at the basketball standings and not the football standings, so that's why I was like, wait, what?
Yes. Absolutely.
But anyway, yeah, it's just, bro, Texas A&M. What happened? What happened?
I will say next season, they better be at least bowl eligible. And I mean, they need to probably be ranked at least, or else that whole team is just in disaster. It's time for Jimbo Fisher to go at that point.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And biggest disappointment in the group of 5.
Give me a moment. I can't say any team from the MAC or the Conference USA because I don't expect anything of those teams.
And you could say the MAC with Northern Illinois. I mean, they were the defending conference champions, and they finished 3-9.
You know what? I would say that if I wasn't, a Central Michigan fan. But fuck Rocky Lombardi. Fuck you, Northern Illinois. I don't care about you.
Wow.
Goodness, who am I gonna go with at this point? Well,
I got mine. I'm gonna just say it's South Florida for me.
South Florida, okay.
I wasn't expecting much, but I mean, they literally somehow got worse, and they had to fire their head coach again. He didn't even finish his second year, I think. He may have been in his third year, but yikes. Yikes and a half.
Okay. I am going to go with... I gotta go with Coastal Carolina at this point. I mean, they were in prime position to go to the Sun Belt Championship and lost their last, 2 games? That knocked them out of potential. I mean, in bad fashion too. I mean, they lost 47-7 to James Madison, and
well, they still made the conference championship game. They just.
Oh, right, you're right. Yes.
Yeah, because James Madison was ineligible. Yeah, James Madison bodied them, and then Troy bodied them some more, and then East Carolina bodied them some more.
Yes, that's what happened. Because I mean, I thought they would have done better than that, but I was expecting them to be on top of the the Sun Belt East, and they didn't. But also, James Madison is probably in my running for one of the better teams to have in the group of 5 because they just transferred from FCS level and they're already competing. If there wasn't that rule where they had to like transfer and stuff like that, and had a period where they weren't ineligible, they would already be up there competing for championships. So I think James Madison is definitely doing a fantastic job, and Coastal Carolina just choked it away.
James Madison is eligible next year for that title, so they are full FBS members starting in 2023.
Which, honestly, I think they can do it. I honestly think they can.
Oh, your biggest group of 5 disappointment.
That's gonna be a hard one because let me see here.
While Cole is deciding, I want to say the Mountain West was very disappointing this season. Very disappointing.
Yeah, there really wasn't a team that stood out this year in the Mountain West, like a 1 or 2 loss team that was just going to run away with it. I mean, Boise State really turned the burners on early, but they had a very, very rough start.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they lost to Oregon State, which that's fair, but they lost to UTEP in convincing fashion. They lost to BYU. And Fresno State had an even worse start. I mean, this was a team that started, they beat Cal Poly, then lose 4 in a row, and then they got it figured out. But, I mean, they had a rough start. I mean, Air Force actually went a perfect 5-0 in non-conference play, but they went 5-3 in conference.
I mean, Fresno State, if you look at their record, I mean, they lost to Oregon State and USC, which are 2 top 25.
But then they lost to Nevada and Boise.
They lost to UConn.
UConn. They lost to UConn. That's even worse. Like, God love UConn. I love them to death. But, oh, God.
Yeah, I don't know how you lose to UConn. I don't know how you do that.
Does this make UConn the de facto Mountain West champions? I think it does. I'm going with it. Congrats, UConn. You won the Mountain West.
I'll say, I think San Diego State is probably like the most disappointing out of the G5 because like literally, like they had something good going for a bit, but then they just got like shat on after like chokes and shit. Like the freaking San Diego Fresno State game, like I thought they had it in the bag, but no, they fucked it within like 2 minutes of the game being over. So it's like it was like a hard thing for San Diego State fans to like deal with, you know what I mean? Like it's so weird.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, San Diego State's normally a powerhouse within the Mountain West, and them and Brady Hoke just slugged along to 7-6. Didn't do well in the bowl game.
I mean, they sold their basketball program, so they have something going for them.
For the moment.
San Diego State is a very good sports school for basketball and football. Definitely a bit of a down year, though, for San Diego State. We'll see how they respond next year.
Just don't ask about their punter, though.
Oh, yeah. No. So, let's take care of some fan questions real quick, and then we'll call it an evening. First one was asked the day after episode 3. Is LSU a playoff team with the new talent and transfers in Brian Kelly's sophomore season? I think they could be a top 10 team. So, by default,
100% top 10. Yes. They need some help though. Like, if the quarterback situation in Alabama does prove to be an issue, yes, I can see them making it. But we'll see. I don't know for sure.
And looking at the schedule for LSU schedule next season, they're in Orlando, Florida to play Florida State. That could be a top 10 showdown to start. Then they play Grambling State, so that should be at Mississippi State versus Arkansas, at Ole Miss, at Missouri, home against Auburn and Army, at Alabama.
At Alabama, okay.
Versus Florida, versus Georgia State, and then versus Texas A&M. So they actually only have 4 road games, and then a de facto road game, because Florida State's going to travel pretty well for that game down in Orlando.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think the schedule is bad for them to do it. They don't have to play their crossover games or the annual one against Florida, and then they have Missouri. So I don't think it's a bad thing. I think it could easily be doable, but they haven't won in Alabama in so long. They're going to have to break that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think there is a chance because I do believe that Nick Saban and Alabama's hold on the college football playoffs is going to eradicate here shortly. But obviously, we'll have to see until how they play at Alabama during this time period where we think that there's a chance that the dynasty is dead. Which I think if LSU wins that game, I think they'll get in.
Anything you'd like to add, Cole?
Not really, honestly. Like, I don't know what to say.
Okay, we got a lot of questions here. We'll combine these next because they're the same thing basically. From Kyo and Tyler, you guys think TCU can bounce back from this absolute beating they received, and were we anticipating TCU to get blown out this badly? No, I was not anticipating TCU to lose by 58, and yes, I think they can easily bounce back. Because that also, another question is, can TCU and Sonny Dykes maintain what they have going on? So I guess we're kind of combining 3 questions into one. I know you deleted that, Snowy, but I'm still going to use that question. Absolutely. 100% TCU can keep it going. But I also want to caveat, last year's Big 12 teams were Baylor and Oklahoma State. Baylor beat Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl, and Oklahoma State beat Notre Dame in Fiesta Bowl. We both thought they were going to be back this season. They ended up going a combined 13-13. So I think as of January 11th, 2023, I think TCU could be back in the Big 12 title game next year, and moving forward in 2024 and on, be the team that's fighting for the Big 12's playoff spot.
I definitely do think that TCU can probably compete for the Big 12 championship. I'm not sure if they'll be able to make it back to the playoffs, but I definitely do think there is a lot going for them and that program, and I hope that Sonny Dykes is able to continue it on, and that next year they are at least competing for a New Year's Six Bowl. I think that would be the goal, in my opinion.
Cole, I will give you this question on Harbaugh. Is this the year that Jim Harbaugh actually leaves Michigan? If he does leave for the NFL, which team do you think he would join? Let me give you the 5 openings real quick. In case if anyone else doesn't know. The Arizona Cardinals, they fired Cliff Kingsbury on Monday.
Rip Boza.
Houston Texans fired Lovie Smith, former Illinois head coach. Bullshit firing, by the way, but that's a subject for another day. And then the 3 that opened up during the season. The Carolina Panthers fired now Nebraska's head coach, Matt Rule. Indianapolis Colts fired Frank Reich. And then, shit, who's the other one? Oh, the Denver Broncos. That's where they fired Nathaniel Hackett.
If Sean Payton doesn't go to the Cardinals, then like I would say probably Jim Harbaugh would probably go to the Cardinals. Maybe, I don't know.
I'd love that because I think former Heisman winner with Jim Harbaugh, I think that would be an amazing duo.
Yeah.
But of course, we said that. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
Oh, I definitely do think they're probably the top two places if he were to leave, which, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to. If he were to leave, would be either Arizona or Denver, in my opinion.
Yeah, I personally think Arizona is going to be number one, and Denver will be second, with the Colts being third. I just think the Texans have left such a toxic environment now, firing two head coaches back-to-back years. I just don't think that's going to be a real option. Carolina could. For those who don't know, Jim Harbaugh actually used to play for the Carolina Panthers. So he has ties to that organization, or at least he's involved with Carolina. I think Carolina. I think in order, it's Arizona 1, Denver 2. We'll go with Carolina 3, Indy 4, Texas 5, and I do think he gets one of those jobs.
I don't think he leaves. I know the NCAA is having this whole investigation into something that he did, but from everything that I've read, it was literally just him.
It was
buying
he bought
a hamburger for a potential player. It's like, really, you're gonna put level 1 infractions on a guy buying a hamburger for a player? Like, fuck off, NCAA.
Yeah, a $4 hamburger.
Seriously, it's so stupid.
He didn't buy a Whopper. That's why he got investigated.
Oh no! Don't bring up those commercials, please. No, I want to get one in my head.
I will behave tonight. I tortured all your eardrums with that last night. So yeah, I personally think he does go. I wouldn't be surprised if he stays, but everything I'm hearing is he wants to go back to the NFL again. The 49ers ended up leaving a sour taste in his mouth, and Michigan is not willing to pay him at a top 5 head coach level. So I think he could bolt. I wouldn't be surprised.
What's his current contract? I don't remember his current contract at the moment.
Honestly, I don't either, because it's changed twice in the last 3 years. So, because they forced him to take a pay cut after the COVID year, and then after last year they gave him more money. I think it's like $8 million a year.
Which, I mean, rest in peace, Michigan fans, if Jim Harbaugh decides to leave, because I don't think they'll be able to compete with Ohio State for a few years if he decides to leave.
I don't think they could compete with Penn State if that happens.
Which, I mean, I'm not a Michigan fan. I'm Michigan State, but, like, I hate Ohio State more than I hate Michigan, so I'm not looking forward to Ohio State coming back and being the powerhouse again.
All right. So this kind of goes into early 2023 predictions here. Who do you think will win? Well, let's just keep it simple here, because it's kind of turned into a 5-part question. Who are your early predictions for each Power 5 conference champion? We'll speed round this one here. ACC.
Oh, goodness. ACC. Honestly, I don't see anyone at this moment that can dethrone Clemson. I mean, I'm all for someone beating them, but I just don't see it at the moment.
It's hard to pick.
Yeah, I think giving Cade Klubnik a full off season was in the work. I think it's going to be Clemson. Now, I don't know how the ACC is doing the scheduling, since they're getting rid of divisions. I don't know if they're just. I think they're doing 3 permanent rivals and then 5 on an interim basis. And I can't remember how they work out. I don't know if Clemson and Florida State do play each other without looking it up. But for shits and giggles right now, I will say Clemson beats Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Big 12.
Big 12.
I have TCU over Texas Tech.
Okay, hold on. Big 12. Oh, goodness.
I have finished my lemon lime drink. It was spectacular.
That is good to hear. Big 12. I am going to go with. Honestly, I would not be surprised if Texas Tech is the one that runs it, in my opinion.
Me neither.
I hope so. I just want to see all 3 Mike Leach schools just do so good next year. I want to see them harness the power of the pirate.
The Pirates.
Alright, Big Ten. I am going with a huge upset here. Big Ten is keeping divisions for 2023. They are expected to be removed when USC and UCLA join the conference. I am going with Penn State over Wisconsin.
Okay. For me,
Bold prediction here for me.
For me, it depends because it depends on if Jim Harbaugh stays. If he stays, I'm going with Michigan. If not, it's Ohio State.
Yeah, probably.
On a personal note, I feel like if Ohio State does not win the Big Ten championship, I think Ryan Day gets fired.
Which is so stupid because Ohio State fans are so fucking entitled, in my opinion.
I genuinely believe if they don't win the Big Ten, or they get, because I can tell you right now, their worst case scenario next season is 10-2. Actually, no, 9-3. They have to go to Notre Dame. They have to play Michigan. I think at Michigan, and they do get Penn State at home. But I'll tell you right now, out of all 4 of those programs I just mentioned, there's only one that's not trending up, and that's Ohio State. They're trending slightly down compared to where they've been at.
I would love to see Ohio State just be irrelevant for years to come because I hate that fan base so much, in my opinion.
Yeah, so, I mean, good luck picking a winner from the Big Ten West, by the way, next season. I mean, I think you could have 5 legitimate options again. Oh boy. Pac-12. Washington beats Oregon. USC does not make the Pac-12 title game next season.
I haven't taken a good look at the recruiting class for USC. But I feel like if USC is able to improve on defense, at the very least, they will at least be there at the end, and it'll either beat them against either Washington or Oregon.
I don't know what else to add.
Yeah, but hold on. I do want to mention, I think Utah, Oregon State, and UCLA are all going to be contenders again as well. Would not surprise me if any of those 3 made it as well.
Right.
Neither would I. And Yeah.
And the SEC, same deal. They're keeping divisions for now. They're expected to be removed when Texas and Oklahoma join the conference. I have Georgia and Alabama in the SEC title game next year.
I would probably go, obviously, with Georgia. And if... Hold on. I need to double check and make sure my brain is working at this moment because I think that alcohol is starting to hit me at this moment. Um,
Oh no, we'll try and speed this up quickly then, Zach.
well, I'm pulling up this. I'm pulling up the teams at the moment. Either Georgia or either Alabama or LSU. Pretty much whoever wins the Alabama LSU game next year will face Georgia. In my opinion, is probably going to be Georgia, but we'll see.
Cole, did you give a prediction here on that one, the SEC? I can't remember.
I gotta say Georgia and LSU again, probably. I don't know. It would be funny.
All right, well, we'll speed up through these real quick here. Which new head coach will see immediate success this season?
Dillingham.
I think it's going to be Coach Prime at Colorado.
100%.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with you on that.
I wouldn't be surprised. My second pick though is Jeff Brom at Louisville. I have good vibes about that one.
My second pick is Dillingham, honestly. He might bring up the ASU program again.
I think that one may take a little longer, but I do think he is definitely the right guy for that program, for ASU.
The rebound begins.
I mean, for Colorado, at the very least, they should be bowl eligible next season. Which
I'm not going to jump that quickly. I think if they can get to 5 and 7, that'd be okay. I don't think it's bowl eligible or bust for them.
I mean, bowl eligible is always like the biggest goal that you want to have. Which I haven't looked at Colorado's schedule entirely to see if that's going to be actually feasible next season, but that should be what they should go for. At least. Oh, I just broke my pen. Okay.
Okay, here. Well, Ole Miss, Mississippi State University, Mississippi State, and Florida State Seminoles prediction. We'll just Ole Miss, I think, will probably be around a 9-win team. Mississippi State, I think, will be 7. Florida State, I think, will be a double-digit win team, 10 or 11.
I agree.
I also agree on that.
And Tennessee win the SEC. The answer to that is yes.
What?
But here's why. Georgia's going to be Georgia. I still think Georgia's good. But here's what Tennessee needs. They need Milton. He's the backup. He was the backup, was the starter, became the backup, and now is the starter again. He needs to play well again like he did against Vanderbilt and especially against Clemson. If he plays like that, can keep that Tennessee offense rolling, I think there's a chance. What you need, though, on the defensive side of the ball, you need your defense to play a little bit better in terms of stopping the long ball. Alabama abused you with that. You were lucky to win that game. South Carolina just chewed you up and spit you out with that. So, to me, the two big things, maintain the level of offense, and get better play from your secondary. Tennessee only scored 17 points less than Georgia did, and they only played 13 games to Georgia's 15. So, and their defense wasn't terrible per se, besides a couple bad games, Alabama, Tennessee, because they did keep Georgia in check. Georgia, I think, only scored 27 on them. So, it's definitely an off chance. I'm not going to say it's a great chance. I think it's definitely probably at best a quarter, but they're definitely in that tier where you could say they have a shot.
Uh-huh.
Do you think Georgia will become the next Alabama in college football?
Yes. Yeah, they will. There's no question.
I definitely see it.
I don't even think Kirby Smart's 50 years old yet. I could be wrong on that. I mean, but the thing about Kirby Smart is he was under Nick Saban as his defensive coordinator for 9 years. So he knows how to build a program just like he did. Yeah, Kirby Smart's only 47, by the way. He could do this for quite a while. So, yeah, I definitely think he could stay at Georgia. I think he could flirt with Nick Saban's rings if he stays in the game another 15, 20 years.
Definitely.
And the final question of the night, so Zach can pass out from drunkenness. Do you think Stetson Bennett will get drafted? And if so, what round?
Oh.
I don't have him getting drafted, actually. If he does, it's going to be late on the third day, 6th or 7th round, at best.
I don't know for sure if he'll get drafted, but I definitely think he will get picked up by a team, and I definitely think he could possibly make a career out of being a perennial backup to a team. That's his extent that I see.
Yeah, because he does have a problem. He is only 5'11", and quarterbacks under 6 feet, they don't make it in the NFL. Very rarely do they have a career, so I'm not anticipating that. He's also already 25, so he's basically at the end of the development phase and entering what would be his prime. I expect him to just be a backup for probably about 5 to 10 years before dipping.
And he'll probably make some good money at that, as long as he doesn't spend it stupidly.
Yeah, 100%. And Cole, your final thoughts on that?
Balls.
Respect. So, does anyone have anything they'd like to add to anything we've said tonight? Any final thoughts on this football season?
It was a crazy season, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. That's the best way to describe it. It was fucking crazy.
Well, folks, that wraps up our coverage of this college football season. This went a little longer than I thought it would tonight, but I think we had a great conversation. I don't know if you guys agree with that or not.
Oh, yeah, we did.
I mean, I hope it was good. I'm sorry, I'm laying on the ground right now, so...
Oh, no.
Oh, boy.
So, next week, to preview next week, episode 5, we will be covering college basketball season. We're going to start swinging into that. March Madness starts in about 2 months. We're going to recap the first half of the season and get you geared up for the second half of the season and get ready for the most wonderful time of the year.
Hell yeah.
Yep.
So, this has been the College Haven Podcast, Episode 4, Frogs Dissection 101. For the man laying on the ground, Zach.
I.
For the great host, Mr. KoalBurna,
Balls in 3D.
and for yours truly, Mr. Ryan, aka Bob Sox. Have a great week, everyone, and we will do this again next week.
Simone now the other way. Robert Smith back to the wall.